Did you know that every single piece of plastic you've ever seen in your life still exists today? I was about 14 years old when I heard this for the first time, and as you can imagine, it really hit me hard. I couldn't stop thinking about this issue for a very long time, and when I looked around me, I saw that people weren't really troubled about this issue at all. And I kept telling myself, well, maybe it's because they don't know, maybe they lack the information. But when I went around asking my friends and family if they knew that plastic takes about 1,000 years to degrade, their answer was always, yes, I know that plastic takes a long, long time to degrade. So if this was the case, why weren't they doing anything about it? My 14-year-old self simply could not understand this. And now that I knew that plastic takes about 1,000 years to degrade, and that there is more plastic in the ocean than fish, and that all the beautiful landscapes I had ever walked upon could one day be completely polluted, I asked myself, can I continue living like this? The answer was obviously no, but what could I do? I mean, this whole sustainability thing seemed to me so huge. And when I was preparing for this speech, I instantly found myself facing the same problem, the same issue, and I chose to talk about the environment and sustainability because, as you can see, it is something that has troubled me throughout the years, but it's also something I'm very passionate about. I try to live as plastic-free and as ecological as I can. So when I was brainstorming, as I said, I found myself facing the same question. How can one make people care about the environment? Because it certainly seems to me that people don't care at all. I mean, people say things like, yeah, recycling or plastic is terrible. But when it actually comes down to doing things, people don't do anything at all. They stay in their comfort zones, believing that great changes require great efforts. And that was something I once thought too. But what if I told you that it's the little things that matter the most? Like this, for example. I assume you all know what this is, a straw, and have at least used one in your life. Some of you use them daily. And for most of our lives, we've seen them as insignificant little pieces of plastic that trouble no one and have no great impact whatsoever. We use them for 20 minutes, or if not less, and afterwards we discard them without hesitating. But did you know that the amount of straws used annually in the United States alone is enough to circle the planet 2.5 times per day? And that is just the United States alone. Now imagine the massive amount of straws from all over the world circling our planet each year. It's crazy, it's a lot of straws. And about 3 years ago, a video of a turtle went viral. But it wasn't just any video, it was a video that really made you stop and think about your habits as a consumer. And how many of you guys saw the video of a turtle with a straw stuck inside its nose? Okay, yeah, a few of you. It went viral. And how many of you guys had ever thought about the massive amount of straws the world consumes, or where our straws end up after we use them? Because I know I hadn't thought about it at all. It was not until after watching this video that I realized that simple little things like these do matter. And not just because we're killing turtles with straws, but because for most of our lives, we've been used to take decisions without even having the slightest idea of the consequences. And I remember back then how people started doing campaigns against straws and started explaining how you were such a terrible person if after watching the turtle video, you still use straws. But a few months or a year later, those same people were sitting at restaurants ordering drinks with straws in them as if nothing had ever happened. And I simply could not understand this. I simply couldn't. But now I feel that sometimes people give up or never even try to take care of the environment, even though they know there's an issue, because they feel alone in doing it. And believe me, it is something that has happened to me lots of times. There have been days where people ask me, and why do you do this, or why do you do that? And when I try to explain that I'm trying to have the less possible impact on the environment, people usually answer, but you know you won't actually change anything, do you? And okay, I know I may be young and inexperienced, but I do believe that change is possible and that little simple things like these do make changes. And to all those people that make fun of environmentalists, saying they are tree-hugging activists and hippies who live in a fantasy world detached from the harsh economic realities of this one, those people will one day realize that our environment does matter a great deal. So stop thinking you won't make a difference. Stop thinking your small contribution would be useless, because it isn't. And Rob Stiltonen once said, "Those who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who actually do." And I'm not here to tell you how it's your responsibility to take care of the environment, because it's something you know by now. You know about the garbage islands floating around our oceans. You know about how we're using up all of our natural resources and killing the planet. I'm here to tell you about 3 simple actions you can take in favor of change that actually have great repercussions on the environment. Number 1, buy yourself a water bottle and stop using plastic bottles. 24 hours. What is the first thing that comes to your mind when you see this? Well, most of you would think about the amount of time in a day, right? And right now you may be asking yourself, but Lola, what does this even have to do with the subject? Well, something I find very interesting is that if you avoid buying a 1-liter plastic bottle, you would be saving enough energy to power your computer for 24 hours. That's a crazy amount of energy in just a 1-liter plastic bottle. Aside from the fact that we would be saving ourselves a lot of garbage from plastic, because you can use a reusable water bottle instead of getting a new one and a new one each time, and preferably buy yourself a metal one since they last for years. And if you really want to go all the way, especially if you're a coffee lover that loves to go to Starbucks, for example, you can get yourself a reusable cup with a lid, so that every time you order your drink, you use your cup instead of using a new one and a new one each time. And I know this may sound crazy or exaggerated, but what's really crazy and exaggerated is we're dumping 8 million metric tons of garbage into our oceans each year, and nobody says anything. And I know this may be hard to picture, so try to imagine an enormous heap of trash, 18,000 times as big as Dubai's Burj Khalifa, the tallest building in the world. Number 2, use tote bags for shopping or no bags at all. This is also one of the simplest things you can do in favor of change. And for all those of you who do not know what a tote bag is, well, it's a reusable cloth bag like the one on the picture. And I remember how when I went to live in Germany last year, on one of my first days, I decided to go grocery shopping, you know, the usual stuff. And I remember how when I went to the cash register, I saw everyone packing their own things in their own backpacks and tote bags, reusable bags. And I realized I had forgotten mine at home because I wasn't really used to carrying them around with me everywhere I went or when I went shopping. And I remember how this lady stared at me so disapprovingly. I will never forget that look. And ever since that day, I have carried my reusable bags with me whenever I go shopping or wherever I go. And it's also something you can do, because using reusable bags is the simplest way to avoid plastic bags, because plastic bag production is actually as harmful as plastic bags themselves. Drilling for oil leads to the destruction of marine habitats and to deforestation. Chemicals released during the manufacturing process contaminate the air we breathe and the water we drink. And studies have actually shown that these toxins lead to male infertility and breast cancer. So the next time you go shopping, take your own reusable bags with you. Number 3. Use less paper. The paper industry has created an ongoing cycle. Cutting down trees leads to less oxygen. When trees die, they release stored carbon. And additionally, the manufacturing process for paper releases massive amounts of carbon dioxide. And as you'll know by now, carbon dioxide is one of the main greenhouse gases contributing to climate change and global warming. But something I didn't know and that I find very interesting, it's a fact, is that if the United States alone decided to reduce their consumption of office paper, just office paper, by only 10%, that would be the equivalent of taking 280,000 cars off the roads at once. And that's just 10% of office paper in the United States alone, because the paper industry is actually the 4th largest emitter of greenhouse gases. And it has become such a large industry because we have allowed its growth. Our daily choices determine production strategies. Our demand for paper is large, and demand has a very powerful impact. One tree makes about 8 sheets of paper. So the next time you're about to use a paper towel, think about using a cloth towel instead. The next time you're about to print a document, think about sharing it or having it in an electronic format instead. Save a tree. Little, simple things like these do matter. And I'd like to finish off by saying that we will inevitably impact the environment in a negative way because we live in nature and there's no way around it. But what we can do is try to live a life trying to have the less possible impact on the environment. And we have to start now, or else it will be too late. And we're lucky enough to be part of a social group that has been privileged with having unlimited access to information. It is our responsibility to decide what to do with this information. Because as you know, information is power, and we have the power in our hands. So the next time you think you will make a difference, stop and remember that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Because you may feel like a drop, but together we are an ocean, and we are gonna make waves. Thank you.